Obviously, from an artifactual perspective, there are some neat things out there too. Horatio Chrisman's surveying gear, which actually includes a compass, it's not depicted here, belongs to the Briscoe Center for American History. So right now, I believe it's in Brazoria County, the county museum down there, but it's something that easily could be loaned back. Horatio Chrisman is right there in the painting. His compass is right there. He's drawing a land grant map on the floor right in front of him. So there's some wonderful connections to these pieces. Obviously, Austin was a diplomat, right? Not a fighter, but he spent some of his time soldiering and leading men. Obviously, living on the frontier, he owned weapons and knew weapons. So there's a brace of 2 pistols that he brought with him to Texas. They both are owned by the state of Texas. And obviously, the Briscoe Center is willing to loan them out one at a time. So our odds are doubled on that one. But that is a picture. The Briscoe Center was not willing to accommodate me by actually getting one out and taking a decent picture of it for my exhibit. So that was taken on display at the Bob Bullock, and I am deeply indebted to them for making that effort. That image is on one of the outdoor panels outside. This tomahawk, which was a piece that belonged to Moses Austin, given to Stephen F. Obviously, from our perspective, this is a trailblazer. This is the kind of thing we would talk about, forging your way through the wilderness. I forgot my first joke. Stephen F. Austin was going to bring the civilization to the wilderness, and we brought air conditioning and the internet at the same time. Then there's some smaller sort of personal effects. These pieces happen to all belong, well, actually that's not true. The collar studs belong to the Briscoe Center, so again, state-owned. The tapestry, the carpet cakes here that holds the business cards belongs to the San Jacinto collection. There are a number of things that were Austin related that are in the San Jacinto collection. I've always loved the business card, which they do display in their small display area. Stephen F. Austin of Texas, carried in that case. Now, we've had some interesting things happen, and our curators are very excited. I find it funny how giddy archaeologists get about coins. I'm struck by that because the main way I would say I'm struck by it is that, let's see, this piece in the middle, the 2 pieces that have boxes around them are site associated. So don't let me confuse you about what you're looking at here. This belongs to us, and this belongs to us. And by the way, this is one piece, front and back. So I don't have 2 pieces of a coin, I have 1 piece of a coin. But the other pieces don't belong to us. This middle piece was found by a guest, July 4th weekend 2009. We didn't have staff here then. We've only had staff here since 2011. So they were here on July 4th weekend. It rained back then, kind of like it's trying to rain now. And they found this coin on the surface of the ground. It's a common problem for us as a burned archaeological site. And so they went home with it. They thought it was a dime, put it in their pocket. Thankfully, they went home with it unintentionally, because most of my guests, I don't want to speak too rudely of the human condition, but probably would have found a nice souvenir that day. This family called me the next day and said, holy cow, we have got an 1816 Spanish coin that we walked off your site. So I went to Houston, picked it up, it's in our collection, we'll be putting it on display in the future. All of that to say, archaeologists were thrilled when I found this. Holy cow, that's exciting. And I said, I find pottery and stuff on top of the ground all the time, and you guys say, out of context, not useful. But apparently, having a date on something makes it a little more sense. This piece is really the big one for us. It was found during some structure archaeology we did, reviewing the ground around this building as we did some restoration on the floor. And it was found in a test unit in front of the building. If you're familiar with the whole Pieces of 8 history, we do a school program on this now, just like Colonial Williamsburg does almost the exact same program about this currency in the American colonies, and we talk about it here. It's important to recognize that the coin that pirates and others call a piece of 8 was only made in the New World between 1730 and 1770. So they weren't being minted even before. The minting ended before the American Revolution. So our coin is from somewhere in that time. I'll never know the story if it came from Mexico or if it came from the American colonies. I like to assume the latter, because that makes the most sense with the story we're telling here. Unfortunately, I have no identifying mark on it. All I would need is the last 2 numbers here, but I've got nothing. I don't have any of the king's name, which would be on the back. What I do have is this little M with a circle on it. Do we have any coin collectors here? Do you know what that means? The coin was minted in Mexico City. So that's about all we know at this point. I will say both archaeologists and historians alike in our office were thrilled that we dug this up and not this, just because of the story that it tells. Initially, my boss said, if we found this, would it have paid for anything we're doing? No, it wouldn't. It would have been really cool. But this isn't going to pay for anything either, but it's certainly a very nice piece, and we'll be excited to share it with people. I tell school kids who have no clue, and I should give you my own perspective. My great-grandfather was alive until I started college, and he referred to a quarter as 2 bits all his life. Right? So this is an economic system where you're chopping coins, where you trust, bless you, bless you, bless you, where you trust the weight and shape of a coin to make change off that coin itself. It's where we get the whole expression of 2 bits and all that. So I tell the kids when they come in, next time you go to a football game, listen real close when the cheerleaders throw all that junk at you. They're yelling about this. They don't know they're yelling about this. I've asked a lot of them, but they're talking about this currency. So we have some interesting pieces in that thing to share. Just for your curiosity, if you haven't, we've been asked to get involved in the discussion about the Lone Star concept because of our founding role in some of the early Anglo-Texas history. And so a lot of people equate this coin. There was a bachelor found in San Antonio along the San Antonio River, I want to say in the 1960s, that have this star on it. I've yet to meet a historian who can tell me why Spain thought Texas was a lone star. I can't make any connection between that star and the things we think about when we use the concept of lone star. But I'll tell you my theory here, we'll get there in a minute. Here's a close-up of the coin on the other side, to kind of show you where the cut is. So you see we have half of the 8 right there. And our curators, I'm probably 2 to 3 years away from being able to put this in a brand new building. They look at it and go, how are we going to put mirrors on it? How are we going to make this visible to people, right? They're very excited about it. Another art piece that some of you will be familiar with is the Charles Shaw painting of the town. Ms. Perry, this is what you were talking about earlier? Yeah, okay. A lot of interesting speculation about it. I think Ms. Perry and I are of the same mindset. I think the perspective on this is from basically where we are now, looking back to the south, and this would be the road past the larger garden lots and ultimately towards San Antonio. That's not by any way agreed upon, and probably doesn't really matter. It's one of the few paintings of San Antonio that exists, and of course, as you recognize, it was not done when the town was here, so it's fairly speculative. I think it's mainly based on Noah Smithwick's accounts of the town. And then you've got things that are a little more close to home in that Stephen F. Austin's nephew made this sketch of the cabin. There's been a lot of debate about which cabin it was. He had a cabin here, and then that was converted to a tavern, and he had a cabin out in the garden lots. And we presume this is that second residence, but tough to say. Historians have gone back and forth on it. We get to some interesting stories that'll be fun for our museum to piece together. Travis is a tough one to tell stories about because there aren't a lot of great artifacts related to him. If you're not aware, he was a brief resident here at San Felipe the last 2 years of his life. So we've done a little bit of research. If you've seen this image before, it's the one that's purported to have been the only image done in lifetime by Fort Bend County connected Wiley Martin, which would have been sketched, if the history of it is right, during the siege of San Antonio in the fall of 1835. It's basically been debunked by historians and artists, so I will tell you, most of us don't think there is an image of Travis from life. And so we've met up with a recent artist who did some of this research, who is the creator of this more modern piece that's on one of our paintings up there as well. And he would suggest to you that someone used a daguerreotype of Travis' son Charles fabricate this image. I won't get into all of you now, but just a little trivia one again. But there'll be some fun things to tell about Travis and his life here. We find unexpected things when we do our research. There's a portrait of that first printer that I mentioned to you, Godwin B. Cotton, that's in the Daughters of the Republic of Texas Library in San Antonio. They didn't know really who he was when I called their curator or what the deal was. Again, this is painted long after his death, but we know he was a large man and very jolly. They got that part right. And then, of course, we do have archaeological aspects of our site that would be important for our interpretation. I can't put the fireplace footing in the museum, of course, but it's still fun that we've identified it. That is the fireplace footing from Payton's Tavern. So if you're familiar with that story, it's on private property close to us here, not owned by the state. But none of these other artifacts came to bear during some recent archaeology on private land. We believe we will own most of that artifact collection in the next year or so. So here's a couple other pieces. Nice pipe bowl and wonderful pig snout. And then there's a lot of documentary history. Obviously, San Felipe was a government town. The business of government created documents. The newspapers that operated here, the Texas Gazette, told you earlier, says it was printed in Austin, Texas, Friday, September 24th, 1839. Those papers pretty much exist in the archival records, so we can pull things from there. The first book, people in museums like first. I don't usually like first. I like Grace's perspective of it all started here, right? We're the beginning. But when you put a first on, if it's not a really cool thing, people just want to knock you off the block and it can become a distraction. So this is a legitimate first book that anyone knows published in Texas. It's a translation of colonization laws. So Stephen F. Austin and Sam Williams translated the Mexican laws, read it for the colonists, and they printed it in book form. And that one belonged to Harry Mann. And then there's other interesting government-related printing documents. Of course, if you're a colonist coming to Mexican Texas, in all likelihood, you probably weren't practicing Catholicism in the United States, but you're supposed to be now. So here's a copy of a baptismal record. That actually belongs to the collection of the Fort Bend County Museum. Thank you all for your generosity. If you weren't aware that you had that document, it's a great one. And it's one of the few places that Padre Michael Muldoon has a nice signature in the historic record. So that's a great piece. I hope we get it on loan when we get a museum. And just a handful of other things. This is an image of a printer that's in the San Jacinto collection that nobody knew who this guy was. His name is Lancelot Smithers. And Mr. Smithers had property in England, was born in England, came to Texas for a while, and ended up doing some printing here at Gail Borden's print shop. One of my favorite documents that belongs to the state of Texas is in the State Library and Archives Commission. Does anybody know what happened to Gail Borden's print shop during the Revolution? Ended up in Buffalo Bio, right?
Oh.
He printed 21 issues of a paper here supporting the Revolution government, was printing a 22nd issue after the evacuation of town at Harrisburg, and Santa Anna's army showed up, captured the press, captured the pressman, threw the press in Buffalo Bio, and anyway, kind of a long, convoluted story. We're developing a printing theme as a very significant part of our interpretation. Well, they didn't have a press, so just as the Republican government launches, they submit this handwritten receipt for all the things that they did to support the revolution. So we'd really like to be paid. My favorite two line items are these two. Declaration of Independence. We printed 1,000 copies. It'd be nice if we had 9,750. We printed broadside of Travis's letter from San Antonio. 1,000 copies of it to support the revolution. Almost none of our visitors know that. A lot of our visitors are on the way to Washington, Nebraska, and when we tell them the Declaration of Independence was printed here, I get challenged. Well, they have a print shop at Washington, so they can have a great meeting, and I understand why the men stopped coming here, because they thought San Felipe was a little hovel and a miserable little place, so they wanted to try someplace new. But the Declaration was printed here. I always ask groups like this, because I know you're all great researchers, if you ever see this picture anywhere, I'm looking for it. So supposedly it was in the Rosenberg Library collection in Galveston. When I called and asked for rights to use it, they said they don't have it. So I'd love to put it in a display, but can't at the moment. So there is the Declaration. There's Gail Borden's Telegraph and Texas Register newspaper. Again, we'll have a lot of documentary evidence for things like that. And then some of the documents have their own sort of interesting artistic aspects that relate to running the state, running the colony. Real quickly, here's my concept on the Lone Star. If you're familiar with, this is the Mexican flag for the states of Korea and Texas as they were conjoined. This flag is what most historians today believe is the Alamo flag. You've seen the 1824 flag and different things. There's a lot of dispute about whether that flag was flown at the Alamo or not. This is where the consensus is landing. Of course, you notice it's basically the Korea Texas flag with a change to the stars. And that's a Tejano militia flag. We think it was probably flown by Tejano militia supporters at the Alamo. But what I tell people about the Lone Star is when you're chafing under a government that you don't like, and one of your issues is you're merged with another state, wouldn't you really like to just have one star on there? And so that's what starts to emerge in the Republic era as we start shifting into who and what we are. So just for fun, I usually include the Hezbollah flag just because people like it so much, which is historically believed never to have been commissioned or even proposed. But you can buy a neat set of cufflinks. And of course, the San Felipe flag also includes a Lone Star image. We've got an image of the San Felipe flag on the wall back there that was put together at the time of Austin's bicentennial of his birth, 1993. And it has a common misunderstanding, we think, of what the flag looked like. This is, we believe, what the flag was intended to look like, and we mainly base that on the historic record. There were 3 letters sent to the United States by commissioners who were there supporting the Texas cause. Stephen F. Austin was one of them. And this is what they sent back. Now, I have some friends who like to joke, the reason there's no blue on the Union Jack here is because the restaurant they were in only had red and green colors. It's pretty deliberately described as using the color scheme of the Mexican tricolor. Well, there it is, red, white, and green. It's right across there. But the elements of that flag are intended to represent, of course, the English heritage of the colonists, the American heritage of the colonists via the 13 stripes, the red, white, and green representing the original liberal constitution of Mexico and their interest in being Mexican citizens, and then the Lone Star is the last element. If you ever have done any research on these, one of the proposals suggested George Washington's head where the star is, which I'm sure would be a fun one. That's two more things that I'm looking for, though, just so you know. This flag was never proposed as a Texas flag, a national flag, but it was made as a militia flag. And then from here, to try to respond to Travis's letter, we're presented with a version of the flag. It's described by Gail Gordon in his newspaper, and we think we got it right. We think that flag went to San Jacinto, and if so, I don't know where it is now. It's in your attic. We'd love to have it. Oddly enough, the George Washington head flag, there's a weird historical reference in Nashville, Tennessee, to the ladies of Nashville presenting the traveling Texans with a flag that had George Washington's head on it. So if that one shows up at any of your kin's house in Nashville, man, we'll be love to have it.
Will you come to the bar I have shaded for you? Your bed shall be of roses bespangled with the dew. Will you come to the bar? Will you